Hi, welcome to Tool Specs. So today we're going to review and test another project from olsatools. This is the ratcheting crimper for insulated terminals. To test the crimper, we have 22 gauge wire and connectors, 14 gauge wire and connector, and 12 gauge wire and connectors. And we're going to try to break them apart after we're crimping it, just to see how strong the crimp is. So the first impression about those crimpers here is that there's a nice comfy grip to hold them with some non-slip on there. This is a dual action crimper, meaning that there's two levers in here. So of course you have like your normal lever from your handle, but in the center here they had another lever that gives you even more strength and power to do your crimp with just using one end. Of course you have your three different color here. You'll have your red, blue, and yellow depending of which connectors you're crimping. It's actually ratcheting, so after you start crimping, you'll stay crimping to where it is until you're done completely doing your crimp. So here's an example for if you would have a terminal crimper in here already and it's not crimped yet, and you want to release the tool. So again, here you press on this lever and it will release the ratchet, so you don't have to actually crimp the terminal. Let's see what the inside of the terminal looks like after we crimp it. The first test we're going to do is with the gauge 22, which is the red wire, red connector. This is have to do with the size of the wire that fits into this connector here. So now you can get it ready by matching the red part on the connector and then just line it up so it's right there. Now I can hold the connectors like this and put a wire into it and then give it a crimp. And it will release when it's completely crimp. The advantage of it, it's if you use other crimper before for isolated terminal here, is sometimes the other one will actually break the outer casing that's isolated, that connection. And you don't want that, because when you're going to heat it up and shrink it, then it might actually expose the steel or the wire inside. Now we're going to put our other end of this wire in here. Just making sure that it's twisted properly. And then we're going to crimp that end and then try to pull that wire apart after. So we have to go on the first one to match our red dot. It seems a little hard to me to do it if you're not completely at the end of the handle with your hand here. Like I'm having trouble to crimp it if my hand is like this, but if I put my hand completely at the end, then there's no problem. All right, so we have the perfect crimp. So if you would be installing this on your car or at work on a vehicle, whatever, and you're doing electrical, you would want to heat this up with a little torch and melt everything to shrink the material on top of your water and make a perfect seal. We're not going to do that right now because we're only testing the connector. So now let's try to pull it. I'll pull as hard as I can and we'll see if that comes apart. Oh, no, this is a very tight connector. Here, I'll try again. Oh, no, it's gonna rip my finger off. Perfect crimp. As you can see here, the connection is not damaged at all for the outer casing on this. So now we're going to do a blue connector. So this is the second slot into our tool. Okay, now we're crimp again. I can look. I don't see any tear onto the isolating casing around this. So now we're going to try to pull it just like the other one. No, I can't pull this apart. This is very tight, perfect crimped. All right, so let's move on and do our grade 12 to 10 connectors. We'll see if we can still crimp this with one end. I'm gonna hold the tool at the end of the levers. Okay, this is a little bit tough to do with one end, but if you're a mechanic, you'll get a little bit tougher. I'm tough, but I just use power tool most of the time. As you can see, there's no tear into the isolating housing of this. If you're using other crimper sometime at work or some cheaper quality crimper, sometimes it's hard to gauge if you have it tight enough. Then sometimes you can pull that connection apart unless you have this already shrink with the torch to help hold everything together more. But those crimper here from olsatools, you don't even have to do that. Let's try to pull this apart. All right, so I went as hard as I can on this, and this crimper did an amazing job. I like that you can actually hold a crimper at a terminal connection with just a little bit of ratchet. Now, if you're interested in getting yourself this ratcheting crimpers, I'm going to have the links in the description below. As always, subscribe, give me a like, and we'll see you in the next video.